West Bank Story, Hava Nagila, and the newest in Israeli music, with 60 at 60. Welcome to the Book of Life, a show about Jewish books, music, film, and web. I'm Heidi Estrin. The Book of Life is a podcast service of the Feldman Library at Congregation B'nai Israel in Boca Raton, Florida. Additional support comes from the Association of Jewish Libraries. This is the May 2008 episode, and it's time to celebrate Israel at 60 through music.
Papers.
Yuval Ron composed the music for the Oscar-winning short film West Bank Story, the world's first musical comedy about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Dramatic and musical themes are inspired by West Side Story, but Yuval used his own artistry to combine Jewish and Arab musical elements, as he does in most of his work. Listen at yuvalronmusic.com. I spoke to Yuval by phone at his home in Los Angeles, California. Yuval, West Bank Story is, of course, based on West Side Story, which is based on Romeo and Juliet. And, of course, Romeo and Juliet is not a musical. Do you think presenting the story of star-crossed lovers from enemy families as a musical changes the audience's perception of the story?
I think that when you present something as a musical, everything becomes more fairy tale-ish. It becomes less realistic. So I think that audiences, when they see a musical, they're a little bit softer on the story. They accept things that are not necessarily absolutely real because of the format of a musical. I think there is a potential in a musical to touch their heart in a way that you would never be able to do in a straight drama.
What were your musical inspirations or influences for this soundtrack? And did you draw much from the music of West Side Story?
Yes, the director wanted me to do a spoof or a homage to West Side Story, the Leonard Bernstein musical. In this film, he wanted to bring the Palestinian, Arabic people confronting the Israeli settler people and to have those be the two gangs in his movie. So he needed somebody who could do both Arabic style music, and for the Israeli settlers, we chose Eastern European Jewish style of music, klezmer style. In addition to those two styles, there was the style of the original Broadway play, a fusion of jazz and Broadway show tune style, and a little bit of classical style. So I had three different styles, and every song included different amounts of those influences. And the combination came out, first of all, very entertaining and serving the film very well. And also, for me, it was a lot of fun to be playful with those three different styles.
What are the biggest differences between what we might call the Jewish sound and the Arab sound?
The Arabic music in West Bank Story is folkloric. It uses percussion instruments, hand percussion, for example, a tambourine or a drum called doumbek, which is a side drum made from clay. And those are very ancient instruments. Actually, they are mentioned in the Bible. The important woodwind element is a bamboo flute called ney. It has a very breathy sound, more rough sound than the modern silver flute. And the whole sound of it is more representing the desert, rough, full of sand and wind, primal and tribal and ancient. The Jewish music that I use in the film is based on klezmer music, snare drum, the clarinet. The clarinet is very famous lead instrument in the klezmer style, and this is already urban inventions and urban developments and urban sounds. So there was more usage of Western instruments in the Jewish music in the film. So that's how I created the contrast.
How have Jewish and Arab audiences reacted to the film and to the music?
There were no complaints about the music. Both audiences identified with the music and felt that it was authentic and pleasing and entertaining and beautiful. And some who have really sharp ear and pointed out the homage that I paid to Leonard Bernstein here and there. So that was all good. As far as feedback to the film, in Israel, in the screenings that I went, it was very positive. People laughed at all the jokes. Now, Arabic audiences split between people that loved the film and people that attacked the film because they felt, well, they couldn't really accept a comedy on the subject. They could not stand that.
Mm-hmm.
And after having a discussion and Q&A with the director, a lot of these people came around when they heard the director speaks and explaining that he was not interested in creating a historical account or a documentary, but rather doing a satire and a caricature of the situation. And his intention was to promote peace and to promote hope. Slowly, these audience members that protested in the beginning of the Q&A session start to come around. There was very positive feedback from people in Lebanon who watched the film, downloading it from iTunes, and they sent many emails saying that it's the first time that they ever seen an Israeli soldier who is a kind person. And that was an eye-opener for them. They wish to have more dialogue with Israelis. And these people never met Israelis and never talked to Israelis before. There was very interesting reception for the film from the Palestinian News Corps, and we had a screening for them in East Jerusalem. Started again with people attacking the idea of making jokes about roadblocks, while they themselves spent 3 hours standing in a roadblock, getting to the screening to watch a 20-minute film, making fun of the situation. So they were very upset initially. And then, again, like I described, they turned around during the discussion, and so they actually invited the director to go in to Ramallah to do another screening of the film for their community. So it was really an amazing experience.
What's been the best thing for you about being involved with West Bank Story?
The best two things. One, the best thing was to write the music, because I would never write that kind of music if the director Ari Sandel wouldn't come to me and hire me to create such a crazy combination. I would never ever done Bernstein with Arabic and East European Jewish klezmer thing. And then the movie won an Oscar, and that opened the door to go with the film around the world and screen it to many people and have discussions. Without the Oscar, we would never have this exposure and have this all these invitations and all these opportunities to expand on the piece work that I've been doing before with my ensemble. So that was really the best thing that happened.
Can you talk a little about how you combine Jewish and Arab themes in your other work with the Yuval Ron Ensemble?
Yes, I started an ensemble in 2000 to bring Jewish and Arabic and Christian musicians together, and I wanted to create harmony on stage, to create harmony through music, and to create harmony between the people, and to use it as an example to show people it can be done. And I create medleys because I'm choosing songs that have similar building blocks. Identical elements, actually, identical scales, and identical emotional expression. I try to point out how similar we are in religious and artistic expression when it comes to people that are originated from the Middle East, regardless if they're Jews or Muslims or Christians. I bring together a Yemenite Jewish prayer for Shabbat together with the Palestinian folk song that is about the harvest. And I show the similarities. I do talk to audiences about why I put things together and what it means. So to me, every concert and every record with my ensemble is an educational opportunity.
Cool. Yuval Ron, thanks so much for speaking with us.
Thank you, Heidi. I'm glad you called, and I'm glad we did this interview. Every little thing like this promotes a good intention and promotes knowledge.
This land will be called Palestine. If only our stupid neighbor wasn't the kosher king. Kosher king, kosher king, ay, day, 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 day. Never open on Shabbat. Our problems would be not a lot if only our stupid neighbor wasn't the hummus hut. Hey!
Fran Minushkin is the author of so many Jewish kids' books, including Latkes and Applesauce, Miriam's Cup, and The Matzah That Papa Brought Home. One of her most unique books is Come, Let Us Be Joyful, the story of Hava Nagila, published back in 2000 by UAHC Press. Artwork from the book can be seen at franminushkin.com. I spoke to Fran about the history of Hava Nagila by phone at her home in New York City. Fran, how did you first learn the history of Hava Nagila?
I came upon a book by a man who was a student of Moshe Nathanson at a Jewish book sale, and I was just so fascinated to find out that the lyrics to Hava Nagila were written by a kid. This was just the most wonderful gift from heaven. I knew I had to write that book about what happened. But I found out from another book, which is where I find out lots of things. The boy who wrote Hava Nagila when he was a kid, his name was Moshe Nathanson. He had 3 kids, I think. One of his daughters lives 2 blocks away from me in New York City. By a wonderful coincidence, her name is Dina Starr, and I went to interview her, and she told me about her father, and she also gave me a photo to use, which is in the back of the book, of him holding a flute. He was a flute player in the Turkish army. Turned out that this man, Moshe Nathanson, grew up to be a very, very well-known cantor at the Society for the Advancement of Judaism on 86th Street. And I think he also went to the Juilliard. He was very qualified. He had a radio show in New York later. The man really was productive, but very unpretentious as a person.
As you say in the endnote, there's some controversy about who really wrote the lyrics of Hava Nagila.
You know, the controversy comes down to one man's opinion, and I don't really trust it. But I felt I had to say it in the book just to be sure I was not spreading anything false, but I totally, totally believe that he wrote it.
The tune came from a nigun.
Right.
Can you explain what a nigun is?
A nigun is a melody used instead of prayer or to go with a prayer, and it's just something you hum to keep you aware of God's existence. It's something that keeps you company, and once you get certain niguns in your head, you are with them. My synagogue on the Upper West Side is very big on niguns. Between prayers sometimes or after a talk, before we proceed with the service, they start a nigun and everybody joins in and you go home with that nigun. So it's a wonderful accompaniment to your life.
When I've read this book to children at my library, they are always so tickled because they know the song already.
Mm-hmm.
What responses have you gotten from readers?
Well, they're so astonished when I speak at schools and tell them that a boy wrote this. They really, really find it hard to believe. What they're really impressed by, though, is that they play it at Yankee games. They play it on the loudspeaker system, on organs. You know, it's got to be a great song because they play it at baseball games. But, you know, I go out of my way to tell children that they really can offer something to the world. Look what this boy did at such a young age. And I usually pair it with talking about Moses' sister Miriam, who was a prophet at the age of 6. So I try to explain to boys and girls that they have something they can offer.
As you mentioned, Hava Nagila is played at baseball games, hockey games. It was parodied by The Simpsons. This is a song everybody knows. Why do you think it's so popular?
You know, I have no idea. There are zillions of Jewish songs. Nobody knows them. You know, it's just a pistol to see construction workers singing this song. I mean, it's got to be the rhythm that changes. You know, it begins da 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 da, and then it goes da 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 da. The rhythm, I think, is the catchy part.
Fran, I'm sure you weren't trying to write a political storybook, but with Israel, everything's political. Have you ever gotten any flack for describing the Holy Land as barren and lonely during the Jews' exile and not really acknowledging the presence of Palestinian residents?
No, I haven't, but I think the people who think that way wouldn't write to me. So, no, no one has ever, and I knew I was hedging a little bit, but it wasn't exactly in the prime of, you know, it wasn't exactly a blooming place.
Fran, tell us a little about your newest book, How Mama Brought the Spring.
Oh, yes, that's based on my mother making blintzes. And my mother did have a blintz tablecloth. It was actually a red and white checked tablecloth, the kind you see in old Italian restaurants. And she would drain the blintzes on that tablecloth. I am incredibly motivated to write books about food. I wrote latkes and applesauce. I wrote the matzah that Papa brought home. I am totally obsessed with food. What can I tell you? So I really wanted to do this tribute to my mother, and the act of making blintzes just charmed me. And I don't know how I got her bringing spring to mince with it. That's where my fantasy life comes in. But I love this book. I love what this artist did with this book.
What are you working on next?
Well, I have a book coming out in 2009 called The Tushy Book. It's very playful, very innocent. I will recite to you the beginning. Life is comfy you will find when you have your own behind. Sitting down would not be cushy if you didn't have your tushy. And it goes on like that. It's a tushy appreciation book.
Is it a potty training book?
No, it has no redeeming social value whatsoever. It's just the fun of having a tushy. It ends with, so be happy, jump and cheer. You will always have your rear. Stand up tall, be proud to say, I use my tushy every day. That's
going to go over very well at the preschool where I work.
It's going to be illustrated by Tracy Dockeray, who is just finishing the art right now. She's a lovely, lovely artist, and it's going to be such a charming book. It's so much fun.
Fran Minishkin, thanks so much for speaking with us.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you for calling me. And I hope everyone is joyful as much as possible.
Michael Dorf, the music promoter behind the Knitting Factory and the Oihu Music Festival, has a new project. It's 60 at 60, a concert tour celebrating Israel's 60th birthday with 60 musical events around North America. Major concerts in New York on May 7th and LA on May 10th are only the tip of the iceberg. Check out 60at60.org to see which performers are coming to your town, and check bookoflifepodcast.com for links to the artists mentioned in this interview. I spoke to Michael by phone at his home in New York City. Michael, what are your goals for 60 at 60?
The goal was to have 60 events, concerts in New York, Los Angeles, and other markets around the 60th anniversary, utilizing culture as a device to celebrate and try to make it non-political, non-divisive, non-separatist. We want to just simply demonstrate what seems to be an incredibly prolific country of thinkers. Just the number of artists who are really making phenomenal, exciting music. some of it borrowing from religious depths and others just from a cultural side, whether it's African influence or Arabic influence and all the different tribes, if you will, from the Middle East converging, in a very progressive and very eclectic and exciting way. So, I was just blown away and very impressed, very enthusiastic about what's happening there. I mean, even the fact that Apple Computer is now pushing hard with Yael Naim's song, it's a pop hit. And here's an Israeli artist who is getting this level of attention. Yael Naim, she's just a great new talent, very pretty voice. So I think she's very much a case in point of how this small country is producing internationally recognized and acclaimed art. With all that said as a background, that's what we're trying to do with 60 at 60.
Tell us a little about some of the featured artists on this tour.
Well, Idan Reichel, he's really become an incredibly rising star who's crossing over to a Bonnaroo-type jam band world music fan. Arabic sounds meeting this real great Middle Eastern music. Habanot Nahama, 3 women, all 3 are leaders of their own projects, but they've collaborated in this great harmony-based trio, kind of folk meets, again, a Middle Eastern vibe, actually quite poppy. David Broza, he actually just did an incredible PBS special with Jackson Browne and Sean Colvin and a few others at the top of Masada at sunrise. That was phenomenal. David Broza is just one of these great, great personalities, has like a Spanish flamenco kind of guitar style that's very unique. Rami Kleinstein's been extremely regarded as a composer for many, many years, but a great performer in his own right. Matis Yahu, people are entertained, if you will, by seeing a Hasidic, long-bearded, black-dressed guy who is a phenomenal reggae performer. And then we have Matis Yahu, Paul Schaefer, and John Zorn doing his Masada piece. Zorn was recent MacArthur Genius winner and phenomenal composer. And a tsitsi-wearing creative radical genius. To me, to see a backstage photo of Zorn and Matis Yahu and Paul Schaefer all together is just, I don't think you could find a more eclectic small minion of New York Jews than those 3. Paul Schaefer, David Letterman show, and you see him on TV, he is actually one of the great brains of music. His ability to know so many styles and so much music and actually be able to improvise with great jazz artists, great pop artists, folk, blues, it really makes him a standout musician. Noah Achinoamini, just one of the great Israeli songwriters and singers for many, many years, hugely popular in Italy and Spain. Her music is half done in English, half done in Hebrew. Just a lot of great talent, and this is just a scratch of the surface for what's out there and available in Israel. We're putting on a really great show.
Michael Dorf, thanks so much for speaking with us.
Thank you for having me.
So far, you see the sky, you cry, you don't know why. It's joy, it's happiness, the rainbow makes you feel high. So far, you see the sky. אולי אלבש כלימה זוהרת, תגדיל עקביי, ירחיב מימדיי, גם זה לא ישמיע אותי ודאי. ואם אקפוץ לגובה, מעבר לאופק, אולי גם זה לא יזיז להם את הדופק. מה עוד אעשה כדי לעלות? הדרך שלי לעבוד, לעבוד, לאבד, לאיבוד. כל שביקשתי לתת הלך לאיבוד. האם אתרסק ואתפזר להנחות, או כך ביקום ממשיך להיות.
We would love to hear from you. Email bookoflifepodcast@gmail.com. Post a comment on our website Or if your computer has a microphone, leave a 2-minute voice message by clicking on the voicemail link on our website. The Book of Life is supported in part by the Association of Jewish Libraries, tending the Tree of Knowledge and promoting Jewish reading by supporting Judaic libraries and librarians. Visit them on the web at jewishlibraries.org. Our background music is provided by the Freilachmakers Klezmer String Band from Sacramento, California, whose CDs feature upbeat music from Ashkenazic and Sephardic traditions with Brazilian, Gypsy, and Celtic influences. Borrow their CDs at the Feldman Library, or buy your own copies at freilachmakers.com. Special thanks to Vasquez for the techno version of Hava Nagila, to John Zorn for the use of the song Nekashim from the Dreamers album, and to Habanot Nechama for use of their song So Far. To download episodes of the Book of Life podcast, visit us on the web at bookoflifepodcast.com. Links to the books and CDs mentioned on the show are available on this website. You can also hear the latest episode by phone. Just call 916-313-3820. Thanks for listening, and happy reading.